So Quick Sampler in Logic is fantastic if you want to drop things in and work, well, very quickly, but it has some drawbacks, especially if you want to chop up a drum break and then, for example, have your snare and hi-hats in that break, have reverb. It's a lot of work to move the different samples around, and you have to copy over your same Quick Sampler, and there's a couple of things about it where the workflow isn't as optimal as it could be. However, there is actually something built in that makes it a whole lot more efficient. So I'm going to treat this as if you are starting from scratch and don't necessarily know what Quick Sampler is, how to use it, or anything like such. If you want to just skip to the multi-out bit, that will be linked below with the little time thing at the bottom. What we're going to do, we're just going to grab ourselves a sample and let's just literally do the arm and break. Wonderful job. So if we've got any sample like this, drum break being a wicked example, we can take this, bring it over to here, and we get this little drop down menu, and Quick Sampler allows us to chop that drum break up so fast you won't believe it. We drop it in, we've got our sampler right here. We can literally press slice, it'll auto detect the transients, and bash, it is done, right? Effectively. It does a really good job. Sometimes it will leave clicks and pops. The simplest fix in the world, go from snap, pop it into zero crossing. You'll see very minimal changes happen here because it's good with drum breaks, but it's got a nice big transient. And it'll cut them up. And sometimes you'll see where it's done like something like this, where it thinks there's a double drum going on or whatever. Just have a quick listen to them. You can click on the drum sample itself. You can highlight the section, play it just by hovering over that note. And if it has done something like that, which doesn't quite seem right, and you just double click these and get rid of them. For the most part though, it's really good, and you can also just use the sensitivity and slide that and get it to dial into where you want as well. Once we've done that, we can do things like right click here, right, and we can copy our MIDI pattern, and if we just paste that over here, we've now got it right here. Beautiful. Let's give ourselves that classic 2-bar roll of the arm and break. And let's bump our BPM up to something a bit more familiar for that sound. Alright. Doesn't quite fit, you had that little blur at the end there. Literally, because we've got the MIDI, we can open up Inspector right here. We can go quantize, hit 16 notes. And we're ready to rock. Now there's loads of snares in here, they've got some natural reverb on in the break, but let's say we want to control them separately. We would have to like copy our track, find all the snare hits, get them to sound and sit in the right portion and right place again, which is all a bunch of faff. However, someone was very smart at Logic when they were creating these, or Apple, and there is something built in here. If we right click again on our audio, we can actually do create sampler track, and it will create the slices of the sampler track like so, into a new region. You can see it's created a new region here for us. This time, however, that it's in the sampler, something that does not have access to this slicing option by default. So again, we can now just narrow off our 2 bars and let's go and hit quantize to 16s. We've got the same thing. Now it's in the sampler for us. Usually, if we want to bring that arm and break into the sampler, we can't do that very quick slicing it up and getting it all to work like immediately fast like we just did. Now we've done it and brought it into the sampler, and what it's done is tracked it for us in all those individual slices. If we open up the mapping up here, and we can get rid of the others for the time being, and we go to Slicer, we can see it's mapped each sample across the keyboard for us. There's individual samples, which is brilliant, isn't it? And the reason this is so useful is we can use multi-out in here. We do need to change something first, however. Over here where our plugin's loaded, so on sampler, if we go onto it, we need to go here and change it from stereo to multi-output. In our mixer now, which we can press X to bring up, that will give us this little plus and minus option right here, okay? So to show you how this is going to work, I'm going to add 2 more channels. But obviously, you could do whatever you want and whatever you need. Just an example, this is how it works. I'm going to name the first one Hat, which is our main one that the sampler sits on. We can see it there. And then we've got 3, 4, and 5, 6 named here. I'm going to call you Snare, and I'm going to call you kick. So now inside Sampler and in our mapping section, we can switch this over to some different views up here. We've got our keyboard view, we've got our group view and our zone view. Our zone view gives us the individual chops, so all from Amen Wave and their locations. It also gives us their output here, and by default it's going to say group, which is now called hat. But anything that isn't that, well, I want to send out. Now, you might click through these and be like, what the hell is each sound? I've got to go to the keyboard. You don't. Switch this on here. Now when we select each sound, we're going to know what it is. All right. I would argue these first two are kick. If I hold shift, I can select both of them at the same time. I can send both of them to 5/6. They will now go to the kick over here on the mixer. This is a snare. I can send that to 3/4. Hat, snare. Hat, snare. It's really as simple as that. And that means I can now do things like, well, go and put my favourite reverb on the snare. Maybe I want to put a compressor on the kick and distort just the kicks. Maybe, I want to take out some of that low end that's been chopped off into the highs and really clean the break up. All the options are now available to us and we can work very, very quickly that way. I really hope today's video was helpful for you. It was sponsored by my channel sponsor, which is DistroKid. If you're ready to release your music or beats and you want to get a lot of music out over the course of a year, well, DistroKid allows you to have unlimited distribution for a price an independent artist can easily afford. If you want a discount off of that first year, check the description below for a link to that discount. Thank you very much for watching and I look forward to seeing you in future videos. Take care.